Hi, I'm Jeff. Welcome to HM Ranch. Now in this segment in the series, Comfortable Off-Grid Living, we're going to discuss how we make flammable gas and how we use it to lower our household energy expenses. Now there's a little science involved, but it's not rocket science. I can assure you that almost anybody can do this. Now we're going to start with the heart of the biogas system, and that's what we have. It's a biogas system, biogas plant, same thing. And what this does, this is called a methane digester. And now this here happens to be a 1,000-gallon tank. And what this does is it changes a manure slurry. You mix manure with water to where it's like a real runny pancake batter. And it changes that into methane gas. Now the thing about the methane digester is it has to do that process anaerobically. That means without oxygen. And you might be thinking, how do you do that when you got it completely open up top here? See, this is the inlet. This is where I dump in the manure slurry. But we get into the shop, I drew up a diagram, and I'm going to show you how this is done. Now, biogas is basically about 55% natural gas or methane gas and 45% impurities that are not flammable. Now, when you take like natural gas out of the ground, that's methane gas. It's like 96% pure. So we can't do that. We can at the most get that 55%, but it doesn't take 10,000 years to do it. Now I'm going to show you what I have to do once per day, and this is basically all you have to do to keep one of these things going. Now if you can come over here, I'm going to show you some slurry. What I do now, and you know, the times of the year, it depends on how much you can give us. Now we're at the middle of March probably, and so last night we got down to 17 degrees. We're in a cold climate, 6,000 feet down in the valley. So this time of year I don't add as much every day as I would like in the summer when things are hot, because the more heat you got, the more efficient this is. All right, so let me mix this up. Like I said, I just mixed it up, and I'm going to show you what this looks like here. So if you can get in here and see it. Sounds disgusting.
Looks disgusting. Smells disgusting.
Okay, so what I do, got a ladder here, and I just climb up with one bucket here. So every time, say that one bucket here, or 3 buckets here is 1 bucket there. So every time I do the 3, and this bucket's empty, I take it around and I dump it, and I'll show that in a second. Mouth closed, and I just dump that in. Now what this is a stir. So I'll stir this like 6 times. And that just kind of keeps things stirred up in there. And I keep a lid on it. And now we'll go around and we'll dump it. So as you can see where I just dumped, this is on one side of the digester. So there's bugs in there that eat. And again, it's anaerobic, no oxygen. And the bugs, that's the only way they can stay alive. And so they eat the solids out of that manure. And as you dump it here or fill it here and dump it there, that slowly moves the whole thing down to the end. And so right here is where I dump it. I got a valve in here that I got the pipe out here so I can do everything from outside. It's real easy. So you might want to come in here so you can see what this comes out like. It's basically just it looks like real dirty water, but it's very good fertilizer. And so I got, with 3 of those little buckets was 1 of these, so I dump out 1. So I'm always keeping a typical level in this. You know, outside I mentioned that I had a diagram drawn of the methane digester. Now, I found a pointer, and it's an old antenna. You know, we live 100 miles away from the nearest grocery store, so out here you got to be resourceful, and after I'm done I might put it on my truck. But it'll work good for what we got here. So, again, this is the methane digester. Okay, now you might want to come in. Okay. Let's see what we got. So I'm just going to go through the parts that make this digester. Very simple, very basic. So obviously this here's the tank. And so we have a 1,000-gallon tank, and that's a good size for what we're doing. And so over here, you probably saw this valve, and this was over where the ladder was when I climbed up to put a bucket in. And now this is the level check valve. And so what this does is every once in a while I'll turn that on, and if it's spitting liquid, well then I know that my slurry level is getting higher than I want. So at that point I need to start taking a little more out than I'm adding. And nothing abrupt, just small changes is all you need for this. So that's the level check valve. Okay, here you got the pipe, the loading pipe, the fill pipe, and next to it is the stirrer. So the stirrer, you saw where I moved that 6 times, and that's got an arm inside that goes back and forth, just kind of roils things up. So it keeps it from settling too much. So in the fill pipe, that I got a pretty big one there because I don't want it plugging up. And on the fill pipe, now this is I had to cut a hole in there and I had to weld that in. And I know a lot of you people are thinking, oh, welding, I don't know about welding. But anybody that lives in a situation like this, off-grid, out, away, you need to have a welder and learn how to weld. It's easy. We just bought a welder for my father-in-law just not too long ago. I think it was $125. You get it, and you get everything. Just go to Harbor Freight and you can weld right out of the box. And learn to do that, because there's always something that needs to be welded around a situation like that. And matter of fact, we got a segment on that in the future. So from here, then it goes over here to the other valve here. Now this is the gas out valve. And this you want up at the highest point. Okay, and over here now, this is the spent slurry where the liquid comes out. That we just showed you, that real dark brown liquid. Now, this is great fertilizer. I like the liquid fertilizer, but the one thing you have to mix that 1 part slurry to 20 parts water. Okay, now I want to explain exactly how this happens. We was talking out there about, well, how do you keep the air out of it? Because it's got to be anaerobic, without oxygen. If there's any oxygen in here, it does not work. So you think, okay, well, how, with this thing out and open, how can you keep it without oxygen? Okay, so you see this tube goes in past, or the fill pipe goes in past the slurry level. So that keeps the air out. And that's how you can do that. So what happens here, I'm going to explain exactly how this happens. So as I've put buckets of the slurry down into this fill pipe, it layers up. So there'll be like 2 weeks. Like the layer on the bottom will be the bucket that I put in 2 weeks prior. And you need that because it takes a while for this to turn to get all the oxygen out, so these non-oxygen bugs start living. And so pretty soon it gets to where it's too high. So when I put a bucket in here, fill it, a bucket comes out here into the general population. See? So as that comes out, and you just keep that process going, and every time you do that, and then after those 3 buckets, then I take out 1 big bucket here. So as this goes, so because the fill is on this side, and you let it out on this side, slowly but surely this whole mess works its way over there, and those bugs are just eating away at the solids that are in that slurry. And for a lack of a better way to put it, they fart and belch flammable gas, which is the methane. And so it just keeps coming over and over. By the time it gets over here, all the solids are gone, and we just come out with that liquid. Now, the whole thing needs to be kept warm. It doesn't need to be kept warm, but it works a lot better when it's warm, and the optimum temperature would be 98 degrees. Now, it will still produce some gas even if it's 50 degrees, and here, I can't keep it at the ideal temperature all the time. In the summertime, yes, I can. But in the wintertime, it drops off. I'm not going to use other fuel to try to keep this warm, to keep gas coming. It just doesn't matter. In the wintertime, we're running the wood stove. We do a lot of cooking off that. The freezer that we have inside, the gas freezer, we have an electric one. That's shut off, so we have an electric one out the back on the north side of the house. And so that stays frozen for 4 or 5 months out of the year. You just have to plug it in every once in a while and turn it on. So it all evens out to where we use the same amount of gas pretty much summer or winter. And so you noticed outside that this whole thing was kept in a shelter with a south-facing window, so that can absorb that sun all day, and it's also painted black. Dark green would probably be better. But So it's absorbing sun all day to try to keep it as warm as you can up to 100 degrees. You know, if you get up to 110, your bugs are dying off, and then they're going to die, and then you're going to have to start all over again. You don't want to do that. So you don't want to ever go above 110 degrees. So now the gas lines are run from here to another shed where I do have a little bit of storage, and then from there it goes to the house. So from the gas out here, now we're going to take off from here. And so that gas out, this is that same line right here. So the methane digester is just on the other side of this wall. That's where we were at. So here you can see it's just PVC pipe, and in this pipe I have a series of drains. Here's one drain right here, moisture drain. You cannot let that moisture reach your appliances. And so here's one. I got 5 drains in this whole piping that goes from here to the house. And you can see everything's on an angle, because inside this shop I don't keep it warm all the time. I only heat it when I'm working in here. So it freezes in here. So I want to make sure everything's on an angle to where it will, if there is moisture there, it will drain to the next moisture drain. Now here is one of the main moisture drains, and you can see this catches a lot of moisture because it comes to here and then it has to go up here. So obviously the moisture is a little heavier, so it will come down into here. So now if you want to come in close, I'm going to drain this right here. Can you see the moisture? You probably can't see the moisture from there. So we're going to go right here. So you can see well, there's no moisture in it. But anyway, that's where but that's good. You know, like I say, you don't want moisture getting to your appliances. Okay, now I jerry rigged this drain out to where we can get some gas out of here because I want to show you this flame. So I got it set. I just got my hand over here to hold it. So I don't know if you can see that. Now with the dark behind it, you might be able to see that. Now that right there, that is coming directly out of the methane digester. And that's what powers or helps power the gas appliances in the house. Okay, so now just inside this corner is where I was lighting that flame. So now here is a drain, a moisture drain. And every time you have a run of pipe, at the lowest point you need to put your drain. So I just made sure when I dug it, this was my lowest point. So this will get rid of the moisture. From there, we go over to the storage. Okay, so in here, see, I used to have a smaller digester sitting right here, and that's why instead of running a whole new pipe to the house, I just ran it from there, from the shop over to here, and then from here it goes to the house. But see, I used to store the excess, and in the summertime we make more gas than we do. The dogs are kind of fighting there, but we make more gas than we use. So what I did is I store it in here, and I use these tanks now. So these are just old propane tanks, and what this does is this kind of evens out the pressure. And so if there is pressure, this will absorb a little more pressure, so it's not too intense into the house. But I used to keep them in these inner tubes, and the inner tubes, boy, they blow up really big. But they started getting leaks in it. You can see where the cracks are. So I just abandoned those, and I just went to these old propane tanks. So now from there, we have another underground run. So again, I have to have a moisture drain here at the lowest point. So I put it over here by the propane tank. And so right here is another moisture drain. And again, it's just a PVC, just like what we had in the shop. And from there, it goes over to the house. So now that line ends up here. You can see where it comes up here. But right here, I have a place to where I can add some antifreeze to it, because this right in here, I froze up here before. This is on the north side of the house here, and it stays frozen for a long time. So I got it to where I can put some antifreeze in here to keep that from freezing. So anyway, so the line goes up here, goes up top here. This is good because the moisture is too heavy to follow, so it drops back down. And so it comes up around here and comes in, and now this is where we tie into our propane. So see, this is the propane regulator right here. So it comes in as a higher pressure. We've got 2 regulators, one at the tank, one here. So it comes in at probably 20 pounds, but comes out on the back side of this regulator at probably just not even a pound, or about a pound. I'm gonna get in here close because now here is where we tie in with the biogas. You see on the back side. So I teed off of this. This used to go right to the regulator before we got the biogas on. So here I have the biogas coming in, and this is a check valve. And so it's right into this T. So anytime, and that's what's good about this biogas system, it is absolutely non-electric. It is perfect for off-grid situations. It produces its own pressure. So anytime the biogas pressure gets larger than this 1 pound, this check valve opens up and it starts pulling the biogas in, and that's what we burn in the house. And so nighttime comes, then things start cooling down and the pressure in the biogas drops. Well, the check valve closes and the propane takes over again. So it's just virtually trouble-free. So living comfortably means you don't have to spend a lot to stay living, and that's what makes it comfortable. So between the propane, and the biogas that we make, and we use wind for water, and that's covered in another segment. We use the sun for solar electricity, that's in another segment. And when I'm talking the price here, I'm talking the depreciation on the batteries and all the costs that come, a generator for cloudy days. All in all, it costs us less than $100 a month to keep this household running. Okay, so now we're going to go inside, and I'm just going to show you some of our gas appliances. Okay, so here we are in the house now. Now you can see that I look different. So when Karen was editing this whole segment, this last scene was just missing. So now this is a year and a half or so later. So we're having to do this scene now. So our house is set up just like a travel trailer would be. Propane appliances, and we do that because we can make a lot of that the gas to burn in here. So what we have here is this is a Cervelle, probably a 1956 Cervelle refrigerator. And these, there's probably still a bunch of these in people's sheds out back. Nobody wants them, but we got this one like real cheap. I think I traded some labor for it. Wasn't much. Now this cook stove. Now this is an older cook stove, and the one thing here, you want to have appliances that have pilot lights. You don't want electronic ignition and that type of thing. You need to have a pilot light on your appliances, but they're cheaper too. So, and there's still a bunch of these around. Now the water heater here is just standard, and you just get a water heater that's set up for propane. And again, this is just like you would find in a regular house. Now this is the freezer that we use in the summertime. And this is just a refrigerator out of a travel trailer that was falling apart. And so we've used this for probably 20 years, and we just turn it up, and it works real good. But again, it works off a pilot light, and that's the type of appliances you need. So with that wraps up this segment in the series, HM Ranch Comfortable Off-Grid Living. Thanks for watching. Okay, so now we're going to go inside, and I'm just going to show you some of our gas appliances.